first world is a relative world of accident, more or less, good or evil, and it contains, of course, the whole of the material universe. The second is an essential world of good, in which there is no lack. When explaining the angel's rejection of Adam, Ibn Arabi refers to these two worlds as being, in some sense, totally opposed to each other. For the angelic, good is what exists, hence their eternal and unwavering praise of the divine. From this point of view, all the polarities which are inherent here in relativity are simply not real. As Ibn Arabi says, all good which becomes manifest within this world of creation derives from its divine spirit, which is procreative light. Any fall, then, from constant praise is actually a falling away and a rejection of what is real. This explains the dispute of the angels with God. From their point of view, constant praise is always better than a praise subject to relativity. However, Ibn Arabi says the human being is not simply angelic. In fact, there is a condition which is beyond the angelic. He writes, had the angels truly known themselves, they would have known, and had they known, they would have been safeguarded. Their disparagement of Adam carried on with their claim that they give great sanctification and glorification to God. But Adam possessed certain divine names which the angels did not have, and they were not able to glorify or sanctify their Lord with them in the way that Adam did. On the face of it, Ibn Arabi is saying that Adam is superior to the angels, and yet the inference that he draws from the story is that this is a divine education for human beings in our condition. Unless we know ourselves in our real Adamic nature as the divine image, in other words, as God knows us, our knowledge is provisional and subject to error. We may think we are right, but we remain veiled by our own selves, and we cannot imagine anything superior. We may be right in our own eyes, and yet utterly wrong. This points out what should be our fundamental attitude to truth. Complete prostration before the one who is eminent might and all-knowing. And that prostration is exactly what the angels displayed after their dispute. Ibn Arabi is therefore depicting the human as the divine image, infinitely capable of reflecting all the names and qualities, receptive of all forms. The human being molded with the two hands of God, who receives the divine spirit. The human as complete mirror to God. The human as the supreme barzakh, the isthmus between God and creation, the eye of the world, as Professor Kilic put it, between the infinite unknown and the worlds of manifestation. This is not simply for him a theoretical schema that involves simply our minds. It is the actuality behind our experience if we only knew and saw. Ibn Arabi is always keen to point out that the Arif, the Gnostic, is exactly like everybody else, except he sees and he knows. If we only knew and saw, we would become human. If the waters of our individual nature were stilled, the total divine image would be capable of manifesting on its surface as it really is. The full human potential within awaits our consent to manifest, yet we imprison this reality within a construct we call ourselves and others. In the famous Hadith Qudsi, which Ibn Arabi quotes often, I was sick and you did not visit me, indicating that the reality of the other is in fact one of my servants. And had you visited him, you would have found me with him. If we were to understand the true import of this saying, we would see that the sickness does not lie in others outside us, but in our own self. And only then could we begin the real visiting and finding of the divine. Ibn Arabi's famous poem, O Marvel, My Heart Has Become Capable of All Forms, is not a creed of a theoretical unity where all religions are somehow melded into one. This is the direct perception of someone who has realized his true humanity and articulates the joy of his discovery to awaken this potential in others. This is a marvelous integration which gives full value to differentiation. As he thunderously proclaims in one of his early works, the Anka Mukhrib, so recognize, know your God before death comes, lest you die and you are still held captive by convention. If one thing has impressed me about Al Gore and other prominent men and women in our own time, it is the way he is able to articulate the real benefit of a positive outlook. And I'm quoting from his speech in Bali. Instead of shaking our heads at the difficulty of this task and saying, woe is us, this is impossible, how can we do this? We ought to feel a sense of joy that we have work that is worth doing, that is so important to the future of all mankind. We ought to feel a sense of exhilaration that we are the people alive at a moment in history where we can make all the difference. End of quote. Such a sense of joy in vocation used to be restricted to the religiously minded. Now the actions of everyone, great and small, affect the restoration of balance on this planet, both exteriorly and interiorly. We are indeed living in a remarkable era when the dignity and responsibility of the individual human being is being brought to the fore in all aspects. Every man, or rather, the singular complete man, who is the reality of every man, is beginning to come of age. In short, and in conclusion, the challenge is to see ourselves in the light of the human divine image, to know that we have been blessed with existence and that we are dressed in divine names and qualities, and to act according to what is best in us. Change lies in our own hands, and God knows that which we do not. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Should you wait, please, a moment? Efendim, konuğumuza şiirlerini vermek üzere önceki valilerimizden Sayın Celalettin Tüfekçi'yi davet ediyorum. Lütfen.